Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
Hello and greetings. This is the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, episode 164. The date, June 17th, 2024. I'm Jordan, and I'm joined, as always, by my book crush co-host, Amy, and special guest, Seth from the Cosmere Academy. How you two doing?
Doing so good. Glad to be here.
Excellent. For those wondering where Bill is, he was definitely supposed to be here, and then we forgot that he was going to be off on a family reunion, and we should have planned that better, and we didn't. But now you get me scrambling to make sure everything is good, and Seth was awesome to join us on this very late ask, so he's awesome. All right. Before we get started, just reminding everyone, we are not a spoiler-free podcast. That means that if there's something in the Cosmere you haven't read, in particular the Stormlight archive, as we're covering Oathbringer today, you might just want to mosey on out of here, go read books, and then come back because, here there be spoilers.
Go read books should be the new go touch grass.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so for those of you who listen to the podcast recordings or watch videos on YouTube, we just want to remind everyone it's possible for all you listeners to interact us live via chat. Everyone in chat, if you could wave or something to those not in chat. We record these episodes every Monday at 7:30 Pacific time, 10:30 Eastern. So just come in, join. We have just the best
every
chats.
other Monday, not every Monday.
Every other Monday, yes, that's an important part. Good point. All right. We want to thank all our patrons, of course, because the episodes would not be possible without all you. And if you like the Cosmere Studies podcast, you should maybe go to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies and pledge just maybe $1 or $2 each episode. Really helps us out, helps us improve the show. And our patrons get immediate access to our Discord, which is just a barrel of fun. That's how you measure fun, in barrels.
Yes.
I don't know any other way.
You also get access. Yeah, you also get access to bonus episodes and exclusive access to other bonus content, other good stuff. It's great.
You can chat with us.
All right. So, how has everyone's week been?
My mother is here, and she took huge chunks out of my bushes and trees. So there is a giant pile of branches I got to deal with later. So yay.
Was it desired? Was that
yes, it was desired
outcome? Okay.
Yeah, it was desired, but it's
it wasn't just this out of nowhere. I decided
these bushes need to be pruned. And no, I just hadn't gotten to them at all, and I didn't do very much.
Well, I don't know what it
year.
says about me, but my brain went to she accidentally drove through the bushes.
No.
That'd be a quick way to prune. It's a bit of a permanent solution.
And scratch your car paint up pretty bad too, man. That would be.
That's what rhino liner's for.
No, it's Oathbringer. It's right. I know.
You're right.
All right. This is normally where Bill tosses it to me for announcements in our push for full monetization, but it feels. Amy, throw it to me. I need
Jordan,
this.
Jordan, how are we at our push for full monetization?
Amy, I am so glad you naturally asked that. I have some cool news. We have just hit one of our goals today. Literally today, we pushed over 1,000 followers.
Woo!
So we're at 1,002 followers officially. If you just followed, please don't unfollow us. I think we have to stay above that level. Please stick around. Don't let my incompetence dissuade you. Now on view hours, we are at 3,552. So we also crossed over the 50% mark. So we are almost we're getting there. So we're at 55% basically, being since our last our last
So do we
goal.
need to hit
So
6,000 hours, or is it 5,000, or what was it?
no, 4,000. 3,000 was our first one we had to go
okay.
to, and so that was sort of the first milestone. So we're halfway
Oh,
between
okay.
the first milestone and the
Got it.
second one. So thank you to everyone who helped us hit the followers goal. Just keep watching the episodes, help us reach the view count goal, and we will be able to get ad revenue, which will make us very happy people, won't it?
Nice.
All right. And let's see if I can do this correctly. It's now time for
Cosmere Thing of the Week.
I found where the sound effect was. I was worried. I was like, man, I hope Bill labeled this correctly. All right. Cosmere Thing of the Week. Normally, this is where we show usually some artwork, but today the Cosmere Thing of the Week is the Cosmere Academy. Imagine that.
That's me.
Seth, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Cosmere Academy?
Yeah, so I have an account over. I mainly focus my attention on TikTok, but I'm starting to focus more on Instagram and YouTube as well. I actually used to be Cosmere for Dummies, but apparently there was a copyright thing there, so had to kind of rebrand and start over at the beginning of this year. But it's been super fun to connect with fans, make new connections. Me and a couple other content creators run a book club together. It's Lord Loopy's book club.
Mm-hmm.
That's a couple people in the comments. That's where I know them from. But yeah, it's been super great. Opened a lot of doors for me. Got to meet Brandon last year. Got invited to a little draft thing at their warehouse. And it's just been super great to be able to connect with people and meet awesome creators like y'all and just open my Cosmere doors, so to speak, into a whole new world.
Yep, and you're in my TikTok video with my friend Steve sound over
Yeah,
and over again.
yeah.
You're in that one. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
No, it's an awesome community, and it just keeps getting bigger. Yep. All right, so everyone should definitely go check him out. It's going to be just a bigger Cosmere family. Now, this is normally where we do Sanderson news, but I was scrambling to finish Oathbringer before this episode. I was having to listen to double time because I was cutting it close. And when I sat down to do the notes, I realized I needed to do either get Sanderson news done or get this notes done. And I just said, let's just make sure the episode's good. So there may be great Sanderson news. You're going to have to find out yourself this week. I can't handhold you on this one. Or more accurately, Bill can't handhold you because, again, this wasn't very well planned. So let's just maybe go to the main discussion where hopefully we could wash away the stink of my poor prepreparation.
The stink. I can't smell it from here.
Excellent. That's good to know, actually. So we reread... some of us completely reread Oathbringer. I barely got past the finish line. Seth had like an hour or so to figure that out, so I don't think he reread it in that time.
I have not super recently. I reread it last year, so that'll count.
Okay, that's still fairly recent. It's useful for our purposes because it was mostly rereading it since Rhythm of War in our preparation for book 5.
Right. I kept seeing a lot of stuff, and I was like, I forgot about that, and that, and that, and the
Oathbringer Sanderlanche is
which one? There's 3 in this book.
Just keep coming.
Yeah, I think
seriously, like
I think Oathbringer
because
is
there's a Sanderlanche.
Yeah, sorry, I think Oathbringer is the only Sanderson book in which I might say that the Sanderlanche is a little bit too Sanderlanchy.
See, Oathbringer is my favorite of the Stormlight books.
It's so good.
But it's exhausting.
Yeah,
because you have the Sanderlanche that leads up to the Midnight Mother. You have the Sanderlanche that leads to the fall of Kholinar, and then you have the actual Sanderlanche, which is the battle of Thalena.
Yeah. That's the one I'm talking about. So much happens at that Battle of Thalen Field. That's just... I think I've read... my last reread was my 3rd read-through, and even still, I'm like, I don't even remember this happening.
Yeah. Well, there's so many great moments at the end of the book. It's easy to forget a lot of the stuff that's in between. One of the things I really forgot was there is a lot of very good character work in between the defeat of Ray Shafir and them going to Kolinar.
Mhm.
We get a lot of little chapters with some viewpoints we've never had before. Like this is our first time getting Sigil's chapter.
Oh, right.
This is also, and we also get a Scar chapter. We get a very beautiful Rock chapter. And gosh, I feel there was one more I forgot in there where there's just
That's
all these
'cause,
little things.
When at the beginning of the part, that's part 4, right? I think maybe.
I don't know,
remember.
man.
But when it says like which POVs, instead of saying like Kaladin, it says Bridge 4.
Yeah. And it lets you see, which we do get a lot of smaller Teft viewpoints this book as we're seeing his struggles.
I love Teft so much.
Oh, Teft. It's hard to reread it because you're sitting there going, oh, I know what happens to you later, and it just makes you miss them more.
It's the thing I said when we did the Sanderson or the Stormlight title belt at the beginning of book 4, and I predicted Teft's death. It's just like there's nothing more dangerous in a fantasy series than reaching the logical conclusion of your character arc.
Then you're in danger. Yeah, and I am not great at predicting those things or seeing the foreshadowing until like I look back, and so you'd say stuff like that, and I'm like, no, I don't. I have the English major, but I don't want to think about it that way. No, I'm just enjoying the story.
Did he? I feel like he didn't reach the conclusion. I feel like he was almost there, and it got stolen from us, which is why it hurts so bad.
Well, so I think the important part of his character arc, him learning to fight through his addiction and swearing
I love or I'll save myself, or was it love myself or?
Protect those I hate, even if the one I hate most is myself.
Yeah. So he didn't reach 4th ideal, but he got 3rd.
He got to 3rd.
Yeah.
Because he needed the Oath Blade, or the Shard Blade, so that he could open the gate and bring the reinforcements in.
That's right. Oh man, just him up there with his blade, or with his. He had a spear, right? Didn't he, when he was flying?
Yeah.
Teft,
well, because it's all yes. It's just because it's from Renarin's perspective. Which the Renarin reread after everything that we've been through with my goodness, Rhythm of War. My brain kept trying to say Words of Radiance. Like, no, that's the previous one. The Renarin stuff is so interesting now that you know his situation.
It is. I'm really excited to see more of these enlightened Spren.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be different for sure.
Well, so one thing that's interesting is him, like, once you know that he's seeing these visions of the future, you just some of the things that he says, because we get people's perspective outside. It's like, yeah, Renarin can be a little odd, and we get the really good perspective from Adolin, where he talks about how people think Renarin's just like saying things randomly, but what he's really doing is he's connecting things, but his brain goes quicker than his mouth. But then he starts seeing the future. And so people who are used to just being like, hey, Renarin's a little weird, they don't realize what he's doing is he's seeing things. And he's like, so that's because I remember when they go to Thalena, for example, and they start talking about the gem reserve, and he's like, do you got some big gems there?
And it's like, yeah, they do.
And the Queen Fen's like, yeah,
that's kind of what it's for.
Because it's just like,
do I mention it? I don't know if that's a good thing to say out loud. Yeah.
Am I making this up in my brain, or was there like some sort of quote somewhere along the lines where like Renarin says, oh gosh, I can't remember. Renarin says something to somebody and people doubt it, and Adolin's like, well, no, if Renarin said it, it's probably right. He usually has a habit of saying things that end up being true. Am I making that up?
I don't remember
but that sounds likely, but I don't remember that distinctly either. But that doesn't
like before they knew what was going on with Renarin. I have a memory of like Adolin saying like, Oh yeah, no, I trust it. If Renarin said it, usually things he says end up being true. Maybe that was. Could that have been in Prime?
I don't
That
know.
might have been in Prime.
I haven't read Prime yet. I need to.
I don't. That's the other problem. We now have
So
a
many-
whole nother continuity.
Which Adolin didn't even exist in Prime, so it might not have been that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
possible.
one thing
too.
I do remember that was really good is I liked getting the Rock chapter because he talks to Renarin.
Yeah.
And he has the whole thing where Renarin is talking to him, and he's talking to him. It's like, everyone just expects me to be, an ardent because, he likes numbers. Oh, it'd be so convenient. And to which Rock's like, well, but you do like numbers though. Yeah. And it's like, so then why not go in it? And it's like, because everyone expects me to do it. Okay. So then, like, what really are you pushing against? And, Renarin just needed someone to sort of voice his frustrations against. Because the thing Rock's really good at is listening. The Rock chapter is so good. Because in that chapter, you get so many little things. You get Rock being frustrated because Huyo changes his recipe, and he's like, "What are you doing, you crazy airsick lowlander?" And then he drinks it. And he's like, "Okay, this is pretty good." And it's sort of our first little look at Huyo, which, in Dawn Shard, we get to a lot more of Huyo, and we realize Huyo's a lot smarter than you
but he just doesn't speak the language as much, and so he doesn't communicate as much.
So he comes across as kind of dipsy, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and especially when the Lopin is your cousin.
Yeah.
And so everyone automatically is going to be
yeah.
who those Herdasians. And it's Lopin gets so many good things in this book when he's trying to fly for the first time and he accidentally sticks himself to the ground. And Tef's like, Lopin, what are you doing? It's like, I have to make sure that the ground knows that I still love her. So
doesn't want to admit, I just glued my face to the ground. It's fine. I remember liking meeting Lynn and how she was wanting to join Bridge 4, and Kaladin's like, oh, cool, yeah, you can be a scribe. And she's like, no.
Okay. That's all. Okay, the Sigil chapter is one of my favorites because one, Sigil, he's a Asish man, and he was actually studying to try and become a scribe. So he is very academic, very smart, and so he's bringing up all this stuff to Kaladin of these logistical things he's never considered. And he's like, these are good things. And he's like, are we recruiting? He's like, I guess we are. And he's like, we need a real scribe because that's not who I am. And he's like, okay. And then Lynn's been hanging around, and Kaladin just gave that whole speech. It's like, you got to really focus, listen to what people want instead of what you think they should want and all this other stuff. And so when he says that to Lynn and just puts his foot so firmly in his mouth.
Oh,
because I don't know if I've ever related to any character in Brandon's books as I relate to Kaladin right then and there. And I think that the great thing about it is everyone can relate to Kaladin then and there, where you've just completely misread a situation horribly.
I think that's actually something I love about Kaladin is just how often his one-track mind is on what he thinks need to happen, and he just kind of ignores the situation around him. I mean, that's why the whole and for my boon is so cringy, because he just doesn't know what's going on in that situation.
So the thing that I want to give Kaladin a little bit there with the for my boon thing is he was not talked to directly when they were talking about it in the carriage. So he was just overhearing it and kind of on the side of the conversation. So he didn't really get to ask as many questions about how all the logistics are working. And he had the adrenaline high and, oh yeah, like I finally got my thing. And he did a crap ton of work in that fight. So
he did all the work.
He did like huge chunk of the work. So he's sitting there going, I deserve something for this. And Elikor could have fixed it. And he even says later, he's like, I really did screw you over. I'm sorry about
Well,
that.
and he's not wrong. He does deserve a boon.
hmm
It's just kind of like time and place kind of thing, you know? It's
Time, place, and societally, you can't just accuse someone of that high a standing out of nowhere with no evidence whatsoever.
But I feel for Kaladin in that one that
I feel for him.
Yeah. That's what I mean. There's so many times when like he has a specific idea of how things should play out in his head or how things are supposed, like the trajectory things are going.
hmm
And everything else is kind of, he's just got horse blinders on. And I think that's when he, Lynn, you could be our scribe. Totally. You know, he's got this,
He's
we need a scribe. Here's a woman.
This,
you
like,
write.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing I like about it is I like that Lynn, she's like,
Never mind.
she's like, I sort of thought, because like there were girl radiants, and you can tell as soon as she says it, Kaladin immediately is like, yeah, there were. He just sort of like, you can tell
you could smell the wood burning.
Yeah. Well, he's reorienting his brain in that moment because he's been in an army basically his entire adult life, and it's just a bunch of men, and Alethi society even more so than, you know, most societies.
You can't show your hand. How are you supposed to fight in a war? You know, it's yeah.
Well, and even their food is gendered,
right?
Like it's a very, like, everything has this dimorphic thing going on, and so when she brings it up, you know, there were women radiants, you can tell he immediately is like, oh yeah, but he's just been thinking an army, and an army his entire life has only been one thing. And he's like, oh, I got to reorient that. And I just love that Sigil, you know, you really should think about other pieces of canon, Sig.
Like, do not need that right now. Yeah.
I love seeing Kaladin from other people's points of view in the book. I really appreciate those times when we get to see that.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, the Kaladin Adolin dynamic in this book is so much fun.
I love
that's when the bromance really starts, and it just like solidifies in Rhythm of War.
Oh yeah, like just seeing like the whole like Adolin's like, I'm being fashionable, and here's Kaladin like, who's that overly pompous fashion? Oh, that's Adolin. Like, that's
me and a friend of mine, V, which Amy, I think you know V from in the Discord.
Oh yes, I do. Okay.
We were talking about which Cosmere characters would have what pets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just dog person versus cat person, and we determined that Kaladin is a cat. He's not a cat person. He is a cat.
He is the cat.
And Adolin is a golden retriever, and they're so opposites, but they mesh so well.
Yeah.
Well, what I love about it, especially in book 3, is the fact that both of them are incredibly frustrated with what they respect about the other person.
Yes.
Because you see Kaladin like sees Adolin and he's like, you can't even hate the guy.
He's
like
just so
you just
nice.
can't hate
It's
Adolin.
like,
he's like, I want to hate him and his stupid blue eyes.
Yeah. And then later, like, as Kolinar is about to fall, and then Kaladin comes down with the wall guard, there's like, is that Kaladin in front of it? And he's like, let's go see. He's probably their leader now or something. Like,
if this was any other author besides Brandon Sanderson, Kaladin and Adolin would be rivals to Lover's Story. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I guess I could see people doing it that way.
I mean, look, the Shaladin shippers are still there. So
well, then there's the Silladin shippers, and
all the shippers. So many.
It's a fandom. It's what we're gonna get.
People can ship who they want to ship. I will judge internally,
and that's okay.
That was something that I think struck me a little more this time than the previous read. Was it's a very short chapter while they're in Shadesmar, where Kaladin has a flashback to being in the war and his relationship with Terra.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
We've never seen.
Nope.
And her whole speech to him about, you know, you need to learn to be there for the people who are alive, as well as the people who are dead.
Mm-hmm.
And him, like, it was just this thing, because we've never actually seen Kaladin in a real romantic relationship. We've seen some flirting here and there between him and
he's like, man, she's
Shallan,
cute, but
or
I can't do that. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they'd be a bad match, but the two of them are just way too unstable.
They need someone stable in to be the other half.
Well, it's especially because they have the wrong idea about each other too. Like, whereas Adolin sort of sees Kaladin for who he is, Kaladin and Shallan sort of, they see more the idea of the other person. Kaladin sees Shallan and sees the person who she smiles anyway. He doesn't understand that's a mask, that she's hiding her pain in an unhealthy way.
No, he does. I think he does, because he says, he's like, Storms, she smiled anyway. Like, the way I get it is he's going, she's putting up that front. She's putting on that mask, that being think strong, even though
they both think the other person's coping mechanism is healthier than their own. They're both wrong.
Yeah.
But
yeah, well, because in particular, this one, because he asks her, like, how do you keep doing it? And she's like, I just put on a different face. And he's like, man, I wish I could do that. And it's like, no,
you don't.
She's going crazy this book. She's going absolutely insane.
2 to 3. Yeah, it's like, don't do that. No.
She almost fell in. Like, she created like 3 other personalities in this book alone beyond Veil and Radiant, because she also invents
the rich lady, and then
she invents the rich lady she falls way too into when she starts playing up her.
I forgot about that.
And and she's like, I should maybe wait. She's like, wait.
I completely forgot about that.
And then when she goes into the Cult of Moments, she creates the Kishi personality.
Like she picks up a random face, and they give her the name Kishi for it. Yeah.
And she almost falls into that personality.
Like when
I think that was more the Unmaid's influence, though, wasn't it?
I'm sure that was a factor.
But it's a factor, but she's also like, oh, it'd be so easy to just, because she's going through her whole crisis of conscience.
Yeah, because she had just found out that stealing all the food and then giving it to all the poor.
That actually happens after.
Oh, that's right. Oh,
yeah. Man. Yeah, but she also invents the Swift Spren personality, which is the personality that is the one that's infiltrating the Cult of Moments, that is Veil, but it's Veil acting as someone else. And so she's
layers. Like layer on layer.
She's incepting herself. And she's like talking to Adolin. She's like, I need to make a different personality that can be a wife to Adolin.
Like, no.
And
she's like, wait, because
Shallan's useless. And at one point she's like, Shallan can do that, and she has this little voice in her. You're Shallan.
That's you. Don't lose that.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh boy, this is spiraling a little bit.
This is a lot. And I mean, I think the other thing that a lot of people forget is that she's like 17, 18, and Kaladin is like 19 or 20. So like both of them are.
Well, and what's interesting, because she seems to have it a lot more together in Rhythm of War, her focus book. And I think part of it is she's so busy in that book, she never has a chance to slow down. And you'll notice her like entire, like where she's really starting to go off the deep end, doesn't come until after they defeat Ray Shafir. And she now has some time to sit down and think. And then Yesna comes back. And so suddenly she doesn't have the pressure to feel like she has to be Yesna anymore.
Yeah.
And so now she's trying to figure out who she is.
The other layer to that is that she was like, okay, I was her student and it was great. And then she died, or she thought she died. And then she's like, and now she's back. And Yasna tries to like shove her back into the student role. And Shallan's like, oh, okay, I guess I can do that. But she doesn't like it because she's grown, she's expanded, she's moved on from that. She's kind of closed that chapter in her life because she grieved Yasna and all this stuff. And then she's being pushed back into it. And she doesn't like it. And so that's how she freaks out.
Well, and
that kind of
the weird thing about that is also because from Yasna's perspective, it's only been like 6 months. It wasn't that long
It was
ago.
a lot of growth,
But Shallan has gone through some major growth, which
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
I can I can absolutely relate to that type of experience. I think most people can too if you've ever spent, you know, going off to college for the first time, that first year at college, and then you come back home and you're at your family's house. It's like your family doesn't know all the time and all the changes you've gone through as a person. They're treating you as the same high school senior that they knew a year ago.
Mhm.
You know, and it's kind of hard. It's easy to fall back into just, oh, yeah, I can be this young, immature person again. And you're kind of fighting with the maturity that you've gained versus the immaturity that you used to have.
Yeah, like I find even when like
Well-
I go to my parents' house or they come visit me, like I will find myself stepping back from being mom and being the person in charge of my house because my mom is here. And so I don't feel as much of it. I mean, I still feel like an adult, but I don't feel as much of an adult. And so like I'll sink back into that a little bit more sometimes too.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing complicating it is the fact that Shallan is keeping
Yep.
secrets. And Yasna gives her multiple opportunities to like
Mhm.
tell, like,
Mess
because she's
up.
like hiding that
Yeah.
all the work that she did, you know, infiltrating the Ghost Bloods,
Yeah.
and she doesn't want to tell her.
That's
And
touchy. Yeah.
the thing is, it would solve a lot if she just told
Mhm.
her, but she didn't want to do that for some, like, you know, she has these emotional reasons.
I mean, I don't know exactly how Yasna would react, but I could see Shallan being worried that Yasna is going to be like, "You're with the people that tried to kill me? You're doing what?"
In actuality, I don't think Yasna would have a problem with that at all.
Yeah.
No, I think Yasna would be like, I'm sorry, you
You
infiltrated
did
them?
what? Great job. Let's work with this. Versus, I think
Okay,
Shallan is worried about.
how did you do
Yeah.
that?
I think the main problem would have been that Yasna would have tried to kind of micromanage it, maybe.
Mhm.
But she wouldn't
What?
have been
Her?
upset.
No.
Yeah, I
never
think
does
she would have
that.
tried to like take control of the operation and make Shallan do it according to the way Yasna wanted it done.
Mhm.
But I don't think she would have been mad at her for it.
No, but I just
No.
think Shallan had that underlying fear.
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
that.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and you even see it from Navani's perspective, where she has the moment where Yasna gets a little like preachy, and Navani goes, you know, like, yes, brightness, like
Oh,
says
yeah.
that to her. And Yasna like turns and looks at her. It's like, sorry.
Like, sorry, it's getting
Just-
a little up there. Okay, it's still my mother.
It's like I've been
That's right.
dealing with politicians and scribes all day. It's bringing out my didactic side. And she's like, "You hate teaching." It's like, that's why I'm miserable right now.
I don't like it either. It's just how it came out.
Said every teacher ever.
Yeah.
But I don't. This book in particular is like the last book we got some Navani. This is the one where we really get some
Mhm.
Navani.
Yeah.
And
I love
what I
Navani.
like is
Oh, she's wonderful.
yeah. She invents a freaking taser this book. How can you not?
I love it.
And a clock, or was the clock
Just-
in book 2?
I don't know if she invented the clock, but she was definitely
I
adding
think, and
to
I remember
it.
Dalinar's just like, "Oh, she's got me this clock. Now I can't be late to things."
I know. He's been wearing it for like a week, and he's like, this thing is already taking over my life.
Said to everyone who got a smartphone.
Honestly.
Mhm.
You know, when we think of Oathbringer, you think of Dalinar and the Dalinar flashbacks.
Mhm.
But I mean, how long have we been live now? And we haven't even mentioned Dalinar.
Yeah, over like half hour.
There's so much more in this book than just the Dalinar flashbacks.
I mean,
and it kind of
yeah, like
Yeah.
I love that Dalinar and Lift finally meet, and I love how she interacts with them so much because she's like, "No, your butt's
Daddy
too
Saggy
tight."
or
Yeah,
Grandpa Saggy Butt or something.
I just love that both Dalinar and Navani both sort of become surrogate parents to
yeah.
Lift.
And I think what was it? There was one
Yeah.
time where Dalinar's waiting for like a meeting to happen, and like he and Lift are just chilling and eating,
Yeah.
and just like hanging out.
I love
Well, it's because he
Something you
looks
would've thought happened.
he had a lunch. He had a lunch prepared, and then he looks,
it's
and then it's
gone.
not on the table. He's like, "What?" And she's like, "What is this? This tastes awful." And it's like their military rations, and it's like, "Oh, that
that's
makes
funny.
sense." It's like he's just so They just start having a conversation.
I think some of my
this is
favorite
also-
parts of the Stormlight Archive in general are just those slice of life moments when you can kind of take a break from the stress and you just experience who these people are as human beings.
Mhm.
I love it.
Yeah, like we
Well,
Bill, Jordan, and I all like realized when we started reading Way of Kings again, we're like, the scale is so small. It's so much calmer than like everything you're dealing with in like Rhythm of War and all this other stuff. And you're like, oh, this is kind of nice. I mean, it's still stressful, but it's a lot easier. Just smaller.
well, it's because you're sitting there. It's like, oh, they're worried about Sadius ruining the kingdom. Now, when ELA comes in with her little schemes, it's just like, shut up, ELA. We have bigger problems.
Your husband's gonna die in a
No one
Yeah,
cares.
shush.
Even like Rhythm of War, even like the Sons of Honor feel like nothing, right?
Mhm. Who were
Where
they
they
again?
were a
Yeah,
huge
Yeah,
deal at first. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, that little that little speed bump we had back there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're literally a group that was basically Gavilar was in charge of, with their goal to bring back their gods, because there's like, oh, we need the heralds back.
How do we get the heralds back? Oh, we just bring the demons.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that's also very interesting, because this book, more so than the others, because obviously from the preview chapter of Stormlight 5, we know by the time of the actual party that Gavilar has gone full delusions of grandeur. He thinks he's going to become a herald. This book, especially from Gavilar's perspective, and even like seeing like comments that Navani makes as well, you see who Gavilar was originally. That the fact that he was someone to look up to, and you see the force of personality, but you see whereas Dalinar has gotten more power over his life and has become a better man because of it, because he lets the weight help, weigh him down. Gavilar just kept going further and further.
I want to see more of Gavilar, because I love that dichotomy in his character that we see, because he was honorable enough to get the visions from the Stormfather, and he was originally somebody to look up to. And yet, yeah, like you said, he just became this a-hole of a human being, especially to his wife,
Oh, yeah.
Well, well, this is the other thing that is so interesting that I didn't catch, until I've now, we've read his preview chapter. You actually see what is like, because he says in that one some of the most biting, when we get Navani's perspective, biting things he's ever said to a person. But then when you see him in front of other people, like, because he's talking to Eshonai, he says something to the effect, my wife, she has an amazing, she's a great artifabrian. And like he actually does hold a high opinion of her.
Treat you like garbage.
He saves. Yeah, it's one of those things that it's become this, because he's pushing everyone away.
Right.
And so it's like, even people he has respect for, he's pushing away.
I want to know,
and treating them horribly.
As he's getting more and more into the codes and reading the Way of Kings and getting more into that type of stuff, and at the same time he's going further and further into the Sons of Honor and getting these, like you said, delusions of grandeur, and becoming a worse character while like intellectually diving into what should make him a better character. I want to know more about that.
Yeah, how he takes those words that are leading Dalinar to be a better person and twists them in so he turns into
exactly.
Well,
yeah.
I think it's because he's quite literally looking for the most important words a man can say. He's looking for how to say the right words, not how to
embody them. Yeah,
what those words represent.
He's trying to cheat
so
the
you
system,
think
maybe?
he's trying to look at it more like a literal, if I can just find the right words, I'll be important. Do you think that's kind of...
Yeah, well, because he says that because the Stormfather keeps telling him, it's like, no, you can't just guess at it.
Mean it.
And he's like, yeah, and he's like, yeah, I can. He's just sort of
like, dude, that's your source.
That's like, I see through your trick. I just got to find the password, and it's just like, no, it's not a key. It's an actual oath thing.
It almost has like early 2000s action family flick where like the villain is in the dungeon and trying to force open the door and can't do it, and then they defeat him, and the one child just walks up to the door and like smiles at it and it opens.
It's like, how did you do it? And it's like, because the real power was the
Along
friends
the
we
way.
made along the way.
We are.
Yes.
And it's like, curse you, Scooby-Doo.
Speak friend and enter.
Speaking
Yeah.
of dogs, the thrill.
How does that
Its character, the
You lost me.
characterization of the thrill, because Dalinar thinks of the thrill, but almost as a drug.
Mhm.
Yes.
But then
Yes.
when it comes back later in his life, he refers to it. It's like an axe hound, like seeing its master
yeah, he
again.
does.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I'd forgotten.
I forgot about that.
And and so the thrill was very. First of all, holy crap! I forgot how many of the Unmade were in this
Oh, yeah.
book,
Like half of them.
because
Like we didn't even
Yeah.
meet any of them until book 3, and then all of a sudden now we know most of them.
we had Ray Shafir in Urithiru. In Kolinar, there were 3.
Yes.
Because they had Ashert Marn, Ja Anat, and they had Yelignar.
Mm-hmm.
Because Aesudan
Oh, yeah,
bonded
yeah.
it.
That was creepy. As a mom, she just makes me so mad. I'm just like, you terrible, awful woman. You deserve.
I kind of forget that Aesudan did that because it feels like such a small, almost unimportant scene where she does that before it goes to Amaram.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically there to serve so you understand this thing.
Not good.
You saw her have it,
Mhm.
but she doesn't have it anymore. Meaning what?
Right, yeah. I think it's also just to kind of show why things in Kolinar are so bad. And it's because the queen is being influenced by 2 Unmade.
Yeah, and I mean, the interlude with the little Ardent who goes and she's so adamant that she's going to fix things and be good and do great things, and then the guy who's mentoring her is like, no, just chill out. You really want to not waste things. He's like, fine, you can how about you just pass out this food that's going to get wasted, and instead she goes and
I'm fairly
gets herself
certain.
beheaded.
I'm fairly certain that was Words of Radiance where that was.
Radiance?
So we had.
I think it was.
Yeah, that was Words of.
And then
that was
that
Words of
Arden gets
Radiance.
hung, doesn't she?
Yeah,
Or something.
she does.
Yeah.
And then
that's what starts the revolt.
Starts the riots.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and so,
man, I forget
that's the
how
thing
much
that I
happens
love.
behind the scenes.
I know,
There's so much going on.
Well, it's because it's what I love about the interlude chapters is at first it always feels like it's just some random thing that he's showing just to give you,
But it never is.
like, oh, here's what's going on. Because Rissyn felt so unimportant in the first couple books, and then she gets her own little miniature book, and May in the end might have the most important book, like lore-wise,
now
of anyone.
she's like literally on par.
She's
debatably more powerful than the shards themselves. Maybe question mark. We just don't know.
Yeah, but she's holding something big, and we're like, what can she do that? I don't know, but it's a lot, and she's got
Hey, Shandil.
sleepless that are just like, we're guarding you. You don't get to do anything we don't approve of. Just the whole thing.
Yeah. No, I know the
Well, and then on
interludes
top of-
are not to be ignored.
Oh yeah.
Which makes the one about the guy who's going around just collecting wood and talking about
Puli.
Puli. And it's like everyone is like, they'll come with light in their pockets, and just seeing what's happened with other interludes, I'm just like, what are you doing, Puli? What's going on?
Why? I am not remembering this at all.
It is so
it's
random.
Like 2 pages. It's the first interlude. And he's a lighthouse keeper.
I won and.
Yeah, I won, and he's going around. He's bringing his cart around, and he's picking up all these scraps of wood that from people's houses that are breaking down from the storms. And yeah,
I'm looking at the plot summary right now. Lighthouse keeper secretly excited about a new storm blowing the wrong direction. It gives him lots of wood.
He's a Natan, so he's one of the blue skinned people.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
he sees a new storm as a sign of the times. He is to keep his lighthouse burning brightly until they come. Those with light in their pockets lost on an infinite sea. Whoa! I don't remember this. What
know,
the heck? I've
there's,
read
like,
this book 3 times.
There's like so many little like snippets, and you remember how we have Ardent Greg, Jordan? I think we get Ardent Greg from
Yes.
the second
This-
interlude. Lista, like
Yep.
the romance novel
Yep.
stuff. We kept calling the guy Ardent Greg.
The Return of Ardent Greg.
So that was.
I want to know about
knew there was-
those with light in their pockets, lost on an infinite sea. What is that?
Is that them coming from Shadesmar?
Light in their pockets. Is that Stormlight or is that something else? And what's the infinite sea? Why are they lost?
Oh wait, or is maybe this about the Iriali or whatever the.
That's
Except they're already there.
Yeah, they're already there. They
I don't know.
leave in book
That's
5.
true because they're going the other way. They're not coming. They're going. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm just trying to.
The infinite sea reminds me of space.
Oh dear. Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if this is something that's actually hinting at
Scadrial?
the second half. Maybe the war with Scadrial. I don't know.
The light in the pockets doesn't.
That part I
don't
don't know. I can't. The light in the pockets is the weird one.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be something that pops up big. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's one that I'm still just looking at. Like, what is this?
What's going on?
It's sort of like when you go through like the death rattles, and you're just like, okay, I see what this one is. I see what this one is. And you're just like, what is this one? What is this one?
So the full quote is, "They'll come with lights in their pockets. They'll come to destroy, but you should watch for them anyway, because they'll come from the origin, the sailors lost on an infinite sea." Do we know what's up with the origin?
That is
No.
part of the map, right, where the storms supposedly start from, but they
Right,
don't.
But we don't know. We know that something crazy is going on at the origin, but we don't know what. Right?
Yeah.
Well, because you're never gonna go there.
Listen.
'Cause
We never
that's-
thought we would go to the spiritual realm, and that's happening. So
Yes, but I just mean like from in world.
Okay,
you have
yeah,
no clue
yeah.
what that is.
Yeah. You're just like, what? What is this? Oh, and I forgot there's the Ardent who's using their Fabrial, and they like turn to smoke because they go to
yeah.
Yes,
the Akina,
Akina.
and then there's also like.
See, when I first read that interlude, I thought the entire purpose of that interlude was just so that Brandon could do some little extra world building to show the effects of overusing a soulcaster.
Yeah, I don't
Which,
know.
let's be honest, that is a small point of it.
Mhm.
That is part of it. But man, it's so much bigger than that.
It's a lot.
Because that one interlude sets up Dawnshard, basically.
And like gives you a lot more hints about Kremlings, because I mean you saw them in Edge Dancer, but this gives you a little bit more.
Okay, that's the other thing. After Dawnshard in particular, every time someone notices like an odd looking Kremlin, you're just like, which one are you? What are you watching? Who are you? What do you know?
You guys might
Tell me your secrets, Bugman.
y'all might already know this. I just found this out like a week ago.
Oh, what?
Where is it the Words of Radiance epilogue? I think when Hoyd is telling a story to a bunch of Kremlings.
Yes.
That's a sleepless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a sleepless. I thought Hoyd was just being Hoyd.
Yeah, because the first time you're just
Weird.
like, oh, Hoyd, you're so quirky.
No,
Yeah, no, that's what I thought up until like literally like 4 days ago when I saw somebody say that, and I was like, are you kidding me?
Like, because it totally depends on what you're thinking about and your mindset when you're reading through these things, if what stuff you're apt to pick out, and other times you just whoosh, you're focusing on other details, and so you don't notice that little thing. And
I think it's just because I've always focused on what Hoyd was saying in that, because I think that's what he's talking about, like what is art, right? Isn't that what that spiel is?
Or what is
right then?
what is it humans value? Or
What do people
this
value?
one
That's
is-
what it is. Yeah.
I think this one is what is art, because he's in colon art.
Yeah. That's when he's talking about what do people value, and then he talks about novelty, and yeah. But now I'm like, why did he feel the need to give that spiel to a sleepless?
I don't know, but the other, because in this one, the one I remember it, like where I noticed that there's an odd Kremlin, it's because It's in Kolinar. It's when Kaladin goes into a storm shelter to meet up with Adolin and Shallan. And so they're sitting there discussing, because they knew that the storm was coming, so they're going to go in and use this time to plan. And as they're discussing it, like Kaladin looks down. It's like for a place this fancy, like they really need to clean up there. Like there's this odd bulbous looking thing with sort of a flesh color, and it's like it's one of their fake skins. It's one of their fake skins.
It's creepy. They're everywhere.
My brain's going back to the Natin because you mentioned them having blue skin, and I'm just trying to remember. Are they part Amian?
Misham.
Is that why?
Aren't there?
Why do they have blue skin?
We don't know.
So the story that's told in the world is this. We actually covered this a couple
Misham.
episodes ago. Was the story of Misham,
and they're
where
the queen and the moon.
She switched.
Right.
Yeah, the queen switched places with one of the moons. She knew the blue moon and then had a kid 9 months later.
What's the lore, like the actual?
I don't think we know.
She had a kid with the moon, so they're blue.
So I wonder where that myth comes from, because I feel like all mythology in the Cosmere comes from actual canonical events, right? At least I think most of them do. It's just twisted in some sort. So I'm trying to wonder what kind of event could have been passed down by word of mouth, generation to generation to generation, that could be twisted into, oh yeah, she had a kid with the moon.
I wonder if it would be some highly invested something that was
maybe
the beginning of it. I don't know what it would be, but because the only other blue thing we know is the Kolos, and I'm pretty sure it's not Kolos.
No.
So,
do the Sea
I'm wondering if it
have
might.
Blue skin? Am I crazy?
Because
does Axes not have blue skin?
No, Axes has blue skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they're part.
So it could be that has something. Yeah, it could be Sea Amians. Could be maybe somehow they're partial, like maybe they're part Spren or something. Because Honor Spren have blue skin.
That would be weird, but I could see it.
The Silladin people would be very happy about that, but
looking at you, Shandel.
But if I had to guess, I would probably say it has something to do with the Amians. But
I'm not great with that part of the lore.
I have not been looking at the comments.
Oh wait, never mind. I found it. I just found it. In fact, this is Coppermine. The Natin people are human Sea Amian hybrids. Where is that?
Okay. Cool.
It was a Sanderson chat Q&A.
There we go.
Here we go. Yeah, it's just, are either the blue-skinned Natins or blue-veined Barbatharnums human Amian hybrids? Brandon, yes.
Okay, cool.
Well, doesn't get more clear than that.
Speaking of Sea Amians, how about the Curse of Kind? Although that's all the way back to the Curse of Kind.
I don't remember that one.
I mean, what
was that one?
The Curse of Kind, that's what Axes the Collector has that always causes him to have bad luck.
Oh, right, yeah.
But that's all the way back to Way of Kings. We're talking about Oathbringer.
Yeah. I love them too. Because she gets she's the laundry. And she gets the stuff out. Correct
me if I'm wrong, was that not the first canonical reference of Aether?
Yes.
By name?
As far as I know of, this is the first time where we see Aether said.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we were,
because I know in Words of Radiance, in Words of Radiance,
she was able to
get
it
on
out.
Mraize's bookshelf,
but we didn't know what it was.
But it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't named.
Mm-hmm. But here's where he praises her for getting an Aether stain out. So that's what he gives her.
Which I want, wait, how did you get out a stain of something you don't even know what it is? What is this black magic?
Sometimes you just got the tricks when you're a laundress,
It's especially fun for us because for the longest time we were sponsored by Mem's Laundry Service.
I bet you it was silver powder or silver dust, and that's how it got out.
That would probably, that's probably your best bet.
There are some silver-based cleaning stuff.
Silver nitrate a cleaning thing?
Real
or is
world
that
evidence to my theory.
Yeah, could be. Well, I love she's sitting here, instructing her new little washwoman, blah, blah, blah. And then also she just hears this ripping sound, turns around, oh, Oh
no, don't do that. You're gonna get me fired or killed. No, don't do that. And then Mraize is like, oh no, this is good. I found Ash. So yeah.
Well, this is one of the things that why I love Mraize as a character.
Yeah.
I love what a good boss
He's so
he
nice to
is.
his underlings. He knows how to be a good overlord, evil villain.
Listen, he's a
person.
bad guy, but he's not a bad guy.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I love the trope of villains who are really good employers, just
You gotta
because
keep them.
it's such a fun. Like, yeah, they're evil, but they have standards.
They have health care.
He probably gives him days off in healthcare.
Yeah.
Well, it's because if you're going to run like this evil organization, you need people who are loyal. How do you get loyalty? By treating your employees well.
Like, I wonder if this is like one of the first morally grave, villains that I'm like, yeah, I could see Mraize because he's an attractive guy too.
Yeah.
Kaladin?
Well,
I said Kaladin. Kelsey?
Yeah.
No, but like I've seen people do fan art of Mraize and I'm like, oh, he is attractive. That's even worse because he's scary, but he's attractive too. He has to be attractive, of course. Anyway.
Don't simp for villains.
I don't. It's fine.
All right. We've been going for a little bit, so this might be a good breaking off point for our interlude. All right. Gang, we are going to be right back.
So just stay there.
In a moment. Okay, we are back. So we've been talking about a lot of the fun, distracting, shiny things that are just hidden throughout this book, and there really is a lot. But let's get into everyone's favorite warlord, Dalinar, the Blackthorn. Because up until this point, we've only ever had references to the monster of a warrior he was. And now we get to learn the monster he was. And you get to see why all the other Alethi looked at him, and whenever he would lecture them, they would look at him and be like, who do you think you are?
Or the flip side where like people would fear him.
Yeah, they're like, no, he's gonna come in and kill us. He's not coming to actually talk. He's just gonna come and kill us. He's gonna kill us. And poor Dalinar
they hear that
shake it.
The Dalinar Kholin, the Blackthorn, the Warmonger, he's trying to make an alliance. There's got to be a trick.
Well, even the Alethi don't believe him. Like Amaram, like late in the book, is sitting here. It's like, look, I understand why you got to feign that you're not attacking the Thalens and you want me to scout them out. And he's just sitting here like, I am not trying to conquer you.
I promise.
Why does no one believe me? And it's like, well, there is a burnt out husk of a city that might indicate why no one believes you.
Oh yeah. And that's that's when I think my favorite Dalinar flashback is when he recruits, what's his name? Taleb? Is that his name?
Yes, Taleb.
The archer.
I think it's that might be the first one, isn't it?
One of the first.
One of the early ones, yeah.
That's probably my favorite Dalinar flashback. Is because that's just so bad,
Because he's like, no, it's great. Show me how you did that.
You almost killed me from how far? All right, you're on my team now.
Well, and I love how absolutely like confused Taleb is the entire time, because he's like, did you shoot that? Yeah, I did. And it's like, do it again. What? Pick a body out there, do it again. And his like guys are sort of holding him, and he's like, okay. I sort of just thought I was going to die.
I just tried to kill you, and now I'm doing show and tell.
What is this? Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love that that's the start of who we now see in present day as an Ardent.
Taleb wasn't the Ardent.
It's not
That's
Taleb.
Kadesh.
Oh, that's Kadesh. You're right. Yep.
Yeah, Kadesh.
You are correct. I got those confused, but still.
Yeah. Well, but that's actually an important one because we get to see some of Kadesh, because Kadesh is there at the Rift.
Yes.
When Dalinar just goes, full Mad King saying, burn them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't a good man.
No.
He wasn't. And it makes, looking back on the Eevee stuff, and you're like, oh, honey,
oh, that's right.
You
because
had
that's
such a toxic relationship.
That's what drove Kadesh to go into the Ardentia was his guilt over the rift, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think he did he help kill the messengers, or would he just help set the fire?
I mean, everyone there has
Well,
blood on their
Yeah,
hands.
but I'm just wondering if
I don't remember how active of a role he took, but I think it was
he was
just
part of
he
it
was
either way.
there. Yeah. And I love that, like, I can't remember the exact quote, but present day Kadesh talking to Dalinar and him being like, I was there. You can pretend you're this good guy now, but I was there.
I was there, yeah.
Because he's one of the elites who was sworn to secrecy.
Yep.
Oh, because there was a group that knew what had happened to Evie.
Yeah.
And versus the majority think that she was killed, and then they took the city as revenge versus
right, yeah.
it was the other.
But
no,
Kadesh
not
is
so
just
much.
like, you can pretend you're a changed man, but I know what you did.
Yeah. Which the sad thing is as awful as it was, Dalinar didn't know she was in there.
Right, yeah. Not at the time.
Yeah.
It was a genuine mistake. I mean, it was not a good thing to do in the first place. But...
No, but it was just like, it's... yeah.
Well, and it's one of those things you look at, like those hinges that history turn on. If that prince of, I forget his name, of
Tantalus, or
of Rathalas.
Yeah.
I forget his name.
I can't
Tantalus
remember.
or
Had he
something
just, yeah, something like that. But had he just taken Dalinar up on his offer, like
very
how
different.
much
Renard and
that's the thing.
Adolin would have had their mom for all that time, and Dalinar had said that they were going to go live in Kholinar after, he's like, we'll live in Kholinar for a year, which is all she was asking him to do.
Yep.
The Dalinar-Evie relationship in particular is interesting because Brandon has Brandon does really like the perfectly made match trope, because we see it with Shallan and Adolin. We've seen it with over in Elantris. Yeah, Vin and Ellen. Well, although that wasn't an arranged marriage, but that was definitely
Like
love at first sight.
Susebron?
Yeah, Syrian Susebron and Elantris. Why am I blanking on their names?
Oh, Raoden and Serene.
Serene.
Yeah, like he likes the perfectly matched pair. And so for once we get a pair that they are not perfectly matched.
Not even a little bit. Blackthorn Dalinar did not deserve Evie.
Well, and he says it so many times. I don't deserve her. But like because she tries to see the best in everyone.
Yeah.
And so she
never
raises her
gives up on
boys.
Dalinar. That's what breaks my heart, is he is a horrible person, and she just continues to try to help him and support him, and I mean,
Adolin loves his dad, and I'm sure Evie helped build that up, and just like, he's a good guy, he's your dad, those are things, and and I don't know how well she was able to impact Renarin in that sense, but yeah. But I mean, you do have that scene where Renarin goes and gets his dad the alcohol to try and like.
That is one of the most heartbreaking scenes I've ever read.
It's so rough. So you're trying to put yourself in his shoes as a little kid, where he's just like, I know the one thing that can help him.
It's
booze,
and it's not a good thing, and that's
Well, it's almost the same as like Syl bringing the Blackbane to Kaladin. Not exactly the same, but kind of.
But it's you can see parallels.
Yep.
Well, so the thing about Evie and Dalinar in particular is why they're not good for each other. Evie is a pacifist by her nature. She wants to just do this, and she gets frustrated when Dalinar is like looking at the frame spin, and they're like having an actual moment together where they're just relaxing, and like they're trying to be a good couple. And she's like, look at the flame spin, look at the play. And he's like, oh, it's almost like they're sparring. I can almost imagine the swords. And she's like, why is it always fighting with you? And it's like, because he's Dalinar the Blackthorn.
This is all he knows. This is how he functions.
It's not just what he knows, it's what he loves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just these two people literally have opposite worldviews. Mm-hmm. And you see them both trying really hard to understand the other one. And they just don't get it.
Yeah.
Because it's not just that they're from different cultures. They don't even, that like the principles they don't see eye to eye on.
What their life goals and what they hold as
Right.
important, like life
their
values and stuff.
fundamental morals are opposed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of these things where they're trying, but this is kind of what arranged marriages are on some level. It's, you have to compromise on things because you're just stuck together. And that's just the way it is.
And I feel even worse for Evie because she's in a foreign country with people who were not really her friends. And I think Navani and stuff were trying to be nice to her kind of, but Evie just didn't fit in and everything was awkward for her and she couldn't go home. She couldn't do these things because she was exiled from her home country. And so she's doubly in trouble that way.
Yeah. Well, and her brother left.
Yeah. So she's totally just her and the warlord. That's what she's got.
And again, they are trying. Like, it's not like, it's one of these things you see. Even Dalinar, he's not trying as hard as Evie, I'll say, but you see him where he is trying, and he's like, so it's not like that for you. Like, and you could tell he's trying to be patient and just be like, okay, how is it? Like, what is it that you want? Because I clearly don't know. I am taking a test I did not study for. And especially because he's sitting, it's like, I thought the point was you wanted the Blackthorn, right?
Yeah.
Because you wanted, like, that was the whole point of getting the Blackthorn as your husband. And it's like, yes, I know.
I know this is not worked out. Yeah.
Yeah, that inner turmoil is very blatant.
And so it's one of those things you look at it, because in this book we also have the slow descent of Moash becoming an entire subreddit unto himself.
The weird thing is like looking back on it, he still has moments where you're like, he's trying to do a good thing. Yes, he's done these horrible, awful things, and he continues to do these horrible, awful things, but he's still trying to do nice things here and there. Like he sees the Parshendi that are getting beaten because they helped Kaladin out. And he goes and he's like, no, you can't do that anymore. And he goes and takes that Parshendi spot and is like, yeah, you trying with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's got moments where you're like, you could be good, but you're still awful.
And
just,
that
because
is
he keeps
exactly
constantly
why I am not necessarily in support of, but I can see a redemption arc.
I don't like it.
If you can redeem Dalinar, you can redeem Moash. Dalinar, everything he's done, everything Moash has done pales in comparison to Dalinar's sins.
I think,
right. But the big difference is that it's personal, right? It was done indirectly to us as the reader. We did a live stream a couple weeks back where we did a debate on whether or not Moash deserved a redemption arc. And the final verdict was still a coin toss. Some people agreed, some people disagreed. But somebody said redemption without forgiveness. And that I am in support of. Where, like, maybe some scene in the future he's in a quiet corner and he sees some Parshendi being beaten and stands up for him and he forgives himself, but Bridge 4 never forgives him, right? Maybe they never even find out.
Well, the big problem is, even before there's any influence from Odium that we can see, he's telling himself, it's not your fault.
Right.
It's not your fault that you did that, which is the exact, like, you see he's that word for word.
Yeah.
You see that word for word. Dalinar says it to himself, trying to absolve himself from guilt. And right before we get to the "you cannot have my pain" scene, Odium says that word for word that to Dalinar, and it's like, it wasn't your fault. I was there. I was influencing you, and that's the difference. Moash sits there and takes all these horrible things that happened to him, and look, everyone in this book series has
else.
Yeah, but you see, Kaladin learns to let it go. Dalinar learns to let it go. Navani learns to let it go. Shallan learns to let it go.
She's still working on it in some ways.
Well, they all are.
Well, I'm not saying everyone's perfect or anything, but Moash refuses to accept any responsibility despite the multiple chances he's been given. Like, he decided, I'm going to kill Elhokar, and
Because
I
I
hate
can.
Light Eyes. He
Mhm.
became Light Eyes. He was given Shard Plate and a Shard Blade, was given everything a Light Eyes could want.
Yeah.
And be like, I'm going to re-examine this. But no. And because it's like, in the end, Elhokar was a child when he made the mistakes that led to his grandparents' death.
Right.
And it
but-
was Rashon who did
Yes.
a huge chunk of it too. It was, I mean,
Rashon
Elhokar
is the one who did it.
Yeah, Elhokar
Like-
made some really bad choices, but he wasn't looking at it from the long-term thing. Yeah, he should have been. He should have been smarter about it. But Rashon is the one who decided to imprison them, who decided to do all of these, and then hurt Kaladin and all these other things too.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
And
we've got a whole nother 6 books. So, and anything can happen and nothing can happen. He could get worse and worse and worse, or he could get better. I guess it all is up to what Brandon wants, but
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
If he got a redemption arc, I would want it to be the one where he dies in the process, just because I don't want to deal with him anymore. Because I'm kind of like, no. I mean,
Yeah.
I still wouldn't be like, I'd be like, oh, he did a good thing, but he died. Cool, let's move on.
If it
give
did
him more time.
happen, I really like the idea of redemption without forgiveness, to where like maybe Bridge 4 never even finds out that he had a
did
change
the
of
good
heart.
thing finally. Yeah.
It's kind of just this quiet moment by himself where he denies Odium and then maybe dies or something. Yeah. But I don't want him rejoining Bridge 4 and having kumbaya hugs and stew at the campfire.
Oh, he ain't getting kumbaya hugs. That's not
Teft.
happening. He killed Teft. At that point, it's over.
Right. Oh man, Teft. Oh, that broke me. That
was rough.
I feel fiction, so I tear up a lot when I read books, but I've never had to stop and just like I was doing audiobook, I was listening to it, I was cleaning my kitchen, I had to pause, put my back against the wall, and I just like sunk down and I just sat on the floor for like 5 minutes, and I was like, that did not just happen.
I'll never forget listening to Oathbringer for the first time at my old job. And for me in particular, it was the Renarin and Dalinar scene. And I'm like, oh no, I can't listen to this at work. Oh no. I have to like sort of escape because I don't want people to see me crying and be like, what's his deal? Like,
What's up
you're
with
working,
you?
like, you're opening up IRA accounts. How mean was that person's form? Like, I don't understand. What could they possibly have said?
Oh man.
And it's like, no, you don't understand. A fictional child is giving alcohol to his father. It's really touching.
It doesn't make
It's
sense
so
out of context, but it's a
sad.
big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody
He's
has
enabling
one
his
scene.
alcoholism. It's so heartbreaking.
I think that's what's really good about Brandon's writing is there's one scene for everybody that just drives home, you know.
Well, and that scene in particular, because that's him, like when he's in the throes of his alcoholism, and what's a constant refrain in the Stormlight archive of people deadening their pain in some way, shape, or form, and it's
Right.
everyone's different coping mechanisms, and he's like yelling at his sons, and when Renarin does that, he suddenly has that, oh no, I've begun to hate my sons,
And that's
like,
not okay.
and up to that point, he keeps referring to them as Adolin and the Invalid. Like, it just...
Yeah, because he is not bonded with Renarin at that point. At all.
No. It's like that meme where he's like, I don't have a favorite son. I love Adolin and not Adolin the same.
It's like, it's like, oh, ouch.
Which then you contrast that scene to when he shows up to the Renarin's like first meeting with the scholars, and he's there
just to hang out and be like, I'm supporting you. Go Renarin. Just like quietly in the background.
just showing like these are very different men.
Right.
But he's trying finally by that point that he's like, okay, I don't totally get it, but I'm gonna try to get it.
I would have loved to see more of Renarin's inner thoughts. Of seeing,
there's a reason we don't get Renarin's inner thoughts.
Of seeing Dalinar being a better father, because I feel like there would be some very, very at odds turmoil in his head, where he's like really happy and grateful for it, and he's loving who his father is becoming, but also this almost anger kind of
Why
mourning
didn't you do?
of why
Yeah.
couldn't you have done this the rest of my life?
Well,
Where was this when I
Renarn's
was?
going to be a viewpoint character.
Yeah. So we're hopefully going to get some of that in the future.
I think there's going to be a lot of that mourning his childhood and anger at his father for not being there as a child.
We're not going to get Adolin as a backstory character, right? I don't
No,
think
we're
so.
not.
No.
Because I mean, so that's probably going to be Renarin's going to be our only chance to see Adolin and Renarin's childhood from something other than just Dalinar's viewpoint, which is not super detailed in seeing them.
So you're saying that wasn't super happy fun time?
No, not so much.
Yasna's flashbacks, depending on how far back they go, we might see a little bit.
I think we're going to see a lot because, well, one, we get our first glimpse of what Yasna's flashbacks are going to be, because this is the one where she talks about, where she talks about just screaming, and you see what goes on in Rhythm of War, how they treat even this book actually, how they treat the mentally ill. We've discussed this before when we had Roger, who's an actual doctor. We discussed the fact that it's very reflective of late 1800s, early 1900s theory on,
you put them in a sanitarium and you just kind of deprive them.
Yeah, well, you put them in the dark. So the whole idea was don't overstimulate them. The stimulation's the problem. So put them in a dark place, and it's just like, it's literally like, I see what your thought process was.
You are so
we needed
far
some.
off.
This is it. Well, and what I like about it is because they even say something to the effect. I think it's because Dalinar is going through looking for Taln.
Right.
And and he even like says something effective. It's like, this doesn't seem very good. And it's like, I guess the Ardents would know though. Like they're the experts, and it's like, they are the experts. You all just suck at this though.
You ever worry that we're still in that like in 50 to 100 years, we're going to look back at 2024 and be like, wow, we really thought that was helpful.
I mean, there's so many times that you would keep looking back and you just look back and, wow, we figured that out better.
Every generation does. Like it's, there's not a generation that ever thought, but they got to the end. It's like, wow, we really had everything together.
Yep.
At the very minimum, they at least look back at some of their fashion choices and they're just like, what was that decision that was going on there?
I think the big one for like our generation is, and I could be wrong, but I think there's two. One, normalizing therapy, and two, the stigma around autism. I think that's going to be the kind of
those are still very developing. Like there's still a lot of the population that's still
I am frankly offended that you didn't bring up super baggy jeans that sag. That's gonna be the one.
No, that one's coming back. I'm bringing that back single-handed.
Oh man.
But I just remember going in middle school in the 90s and people's pants being down there on the knees, and I'm just like, what is that? I knew that was a bad decision back then.
You can't even run away. You just gotta waddle because you can't. You lose access to your knees.
No, that's what it's going to be, 100%.
But no,
80s had shoulder pads, 90s had Jinko jeans.
Well, no, and they're coming back. Like they're you look at the fashion patterns and they cycle around again. Like there's stuff that I look at the stores and I'm like,
leg warmers are coming back.
Oh, are you serious? No.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I know this probably people will find this controversial, but mullets, that's too. And I'm just like, I can't.
Oh, listen, I live in Idaho. Mullets have never gone away.
Oh,
no.
Sorry.
I'm convinced it's a completely ironic, though.
If you like your mullet, I am so happy for you. I just don't like it.
I'm with you.
That's my controversial take for the day.
I have friends, very good friends, who have mullets, and I'm just like, nope.
Okay, if it makes you happy. Okay.
A decision was made here.
But back on track. I'm very excited for Yasna.
Oh yeah, do we know which book is hers? Is it going to be 6 or
9?
Not that
I think it's 9. But I mean,
9? Oh, man.
Brandon's changed the order like 5 times since he announced it. So
that's true.
I think the current planners
and Renarin and
Taln is Taln and Ash. Yeah,
Ash. Okay, those are the other two.
Which we've already had a Lightbringer. I mean, a Lightweaver book.
Yeah,
and the only non-represented book is Dust Wow. Oh my gosh. My own
Dustbringer?
order. Dustbringer.
Yeah.
It's late
That's
at
my
night. It's
son's
10
order
o'clock.
too. No, you're
I've
good.
got
Yeah, my son's a Dustbringer too.
We've got the coin somewhere. Somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think she's going to be very interesting. The Herald, obviously, are both going to be very interesting.
Yeah,
I'm excited
that's
to
not gonna
see if, because in Prime, Yasna and Talon were love interests. In canon, Yasna is Ace. So I'm wondering, is that totally scrapped, or is there going to be a little bit of something later on?
Well, right now she's with Hoyd, so
And I mean, even that, she's still kind
She's
of
still pretty
ace.
ace.
Yeah, but it's
yeah,
It's more of an intellectual
intellectual.
relationship. Yeah.
yeah. But even with Ace, there's still a physical
Yes,
component.
absolutely.
At the very minimum, if you want a relationship with a non-Ace, there's got to be some give and take.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No, but no. One of the things I'm interested in, just with this book in particular, compared to my previous read, was the Zeth chapter. Sorry, your Seth, then Zeth.
Add a Z.
I had a chapter.
Yes.
Tuckerized.
What?
That's straight. No, his perspective in this book was so interesting
In Oathbringer?
because he constantly has Nightblood to bounce off of. And
Mhm.
they're such a weird pairing.
They are.
Because Nightblood is so overeager and happy.
He's our little eldritch puppy. It's fine.
Eldritch.
Yeah,
Oh my
well,
gosh, I love that.
That's a running gag for us.
Fan art that somebody did for us, and
He
it's
is
so
an eldritch puppy. I love that.
Yep. Yeah. Well, one of my favorite things about it is I love his constant inability to understand time. And because he's like, didn't you follow a rock for like 1,000 years? And it's like, it was 7, Sword Nimmy.
And then he says things like, "Oh yeah, Shashara told me last week."
and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you've got no.
Well,
grasp of
and then there's a
time.
moment he's like, how long do you think I've had you? It's like, a long time, at least a day.
At least-
At least a day.
Or maybe it was a week or 10,000 weeks. Like you can just see him sort of searching.
Time
He's
just
like,
doesn't exist for him.
Yeah.
And so I just love the other thing I love is then Lift gets brought into their conversations.
Lift plus Nightblood is something I did not know I needed. But
I know,
man,
but it's
I
great.
do.
I am really so there's part of me, and whenever we do our title belt, there's part of me that wants to predict somehow Lift sneaks onto the mission with Kaladin and Zeth.
That would be crazy.
I could see it actually.
Well, I think it'd be
That mission's
great
going to be crazy.
to just
Oh man.
yeah. Well, because one, she's I think she'd be a perfect like little wedge between those two, because I mean the thing I love about those two going on a mission, it's like book 2, their fight was the climactic finish.
Mhm.
But what
They're going to want to kill each other.
Well, because they're we already seen through like the Gemstone archive, Windrunners and Skybreakers have severe problems with each other because their O's are kind of diametrically opposed.
Yeah, and I don't see. I mean, especially if
those
Lift
two
was there, I could
characters
see
are
them
diametrically opposed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, but you were trying to kill everybody. You were killing everybody, and I'm protecting.
Not only that,
Yep.
I think just their personalities are going to clash so hard.
Mm. Yeah.
Well, because the thing that's interesting, what I love, but the thing is, he ends up sort of like his entire fight with Kaladin, because Kaladin, he's like, he's in denial at this point. He's like, you're truthless. This is a shard blade or something,
This is an honor blade. It's got to be, just like
because he's having this mental breakdown because he's seen everything in front of him just crumble, and he's like, it's like, I don't know what that is or why it would matter if it does. And it's like, no, it was your choice. Like, and just like he's yelling at him. And then Zeth has that moment where he just breaks, and it's like, he's truth. Like it wasn't, it's truthless. And then he's like, no, that was always a lie. It was always just a rock.
And it's like,
because he always then he realizes it's all on him. he chose to follow what these evil men told him to do.
And he did all of these horrible things.
That is
there's people I've seen people like, how is he a Knight Radiant? And it's like, because he accepted the responsibility. That's the difference between the Knights Radiant and someone like Moash, who won't accept the responsibility.
Right.
Yep.
And that's why he's a Skybreaker, is because, I mean, he followed what he believed to be a just and reasonable rule to the T, until he found out that it was flawed and fundamentally just untrue.
And it leads to his big character moment in this book, where they show up at the Battle of Thalen Field and Nail's explaining, the whole thing of the, humans are the Voidbringers. This is their land first. And he has, it's like, so who will you swear to? Because you have to swear to, something
or
other,
idea,
a person or an idea or the law or something other than yourself. And he's like, he's correct. There's no choice here. It has to be, to uphold their law. And he then, of all people, starts having a conversation with Nightblood, and Nightblood gets him to see the stupidity of this, because he's just like, it's their land. And it's like, humans always talk about whose land it is. They never ask the land.
The land gets a vote, doesn't it?
And he's like, look, there's no choice. And it's like, didn't you follow a rock for 1,000 years? And it's like, I didn't follow a rock. I followed the voice. And then he pauses and he's like, and it's like, there was no choice. It was always just a rock. And it's suddenly him realizing it's the same decision he came to last book.
Yep.
He said, it is, I have a choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is huge, right? I mean, because it's literally him trying to fight against what has been taught to him, drilled into his brain, not only morally, but spiritually his entire life. And he's having to go against it for what now he views as, like you said, a choice to do what is right. So.
Yeah.
Well, and it's going to be very interesting, because we see in book 4 with Taravangian, he has this, like when he goes to kill Taravangian, this isn't a calm Skybreaker moment. This is all of Zeth's hatred for this man pouring out of him at that moment, because of all that this man made him do.
Oh, yeah. That's some rage.
Yeah. And you're just like, okay, now we know he's going back to Shinovar,
Oh,
and
yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
So I think the issue for him is going to try and he's going to have to figure out what it is to be the law type of thing, and have to, is this justice? Is this justice or is this revenge?
Yeah, I think him and Khaled are going to have a lot of conversations about that.
I think there's going to be a physical confrontation. I think there's going to be a clash. I think
sure that too,
Seth is going to go on some sort of rampage, and Kaladin's going to have to physically stop him.
Well, and on top of it, the big concern is they're also supposed to be going to help Ashar.
Yeah. Fix him.
What the heck is up with Ashar? I mean, that's a topic for another day, but wow.
That's scary is what it is.
And there's an entire unmade there, so.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be a problem. Super easy.
Barely an inconvenience.
Look, they handled 7 unmade this book or whatever. Which, by the way, Moloch is now apparently in the Horneater Peaks. Don't know when that's coming back, but apparently it's there.
Well,
when was that established? I missed that.
So I think the diagram mentions something.
Yes, the diagram.
They mentioned that, and then there's also when Rock's family shows up, they're saying something's going on back in the Peaks. So we don't know details on that, but there's something not great up there. So if there's Moloch,
and we do know we'll eventually get.
Is Moloch the Death Rattles?
Death Rattles.
Okay.
Yeah,
he's the Death Rattles.
Speaking of,
and we also know that's where cultivation's perpendicularity is, and we know that the unmade
they can't use that perpendicularity anymore.
The fused have taken control of that, at least from the side of the
physical realm
of the cognitive
Oh, the
realm.
cognitive. Okay.
Right, yeah. Speaking of Horneater Peaks, my wife has a theory that I do not like.
Oh no.
She thinks Rock is dead. She thinks Rock
Based
went...
on what?
Well, because Rock killed Amaram, used a weapon
Mhm.
and killed Amaram, and he went to the peaks to go face justice for breaking their tradition. She thinks he was put to death.
I think she's completely wrong, mostly because Brandon has said we're getting a Rock book.
Who knows that? I mean, maybe it's a flashback.
Yeah.
So my hope is that he's going back and he's planning to. I'm probably going to get executed, but he gets there and there's whatever's going on with Moalock and the perpendicularity and stuff, and he has to step up and fix it. That's my hope. There is a plan for him to die by the rules, but he steps outside.
I want to give a stronger argument for why he's not dead.
Okay.
Who in this book, who actually wishes for death ever gets what they want? No,
Taravangian, but not in this book. And it's not even quite death. It's different.
Yeah, he doesn't even quite get death. The only person who's actually died this book who wanted death is Teft, and that's only after he stopped wanting to die.
In this book, no, but in Way of Kings, the bridge leader right before Kaladin gets to Bridge 4.
Oh, I guess there was one who's like, I'm just planning to just...
Did he get a viewpoint chapter?
No.
Come on.
He was only mentioned. He's like, what happened
Brandon
to your last
doesn't let
bridge
his
leader?
characters off that easy. Come on.
Oh, man.
If anything, Rock dies at the end of his book.
No.
I don't want Rock to die. I do not want that to happen.
No, me neither.
I don't want it.
I think he's going to become a Stone Ward.
That would be fun. Because we haven't seen any Stone... Have we seen any Stone Wards?
We do, and Rhythm of War 1 goes with them on their mission to lasting integrity.
You see their Spren more than you see the Radiant.
Yeah, Peak Spren.
Yeah, which have an awesome design, but no. There's one other character I want us to discuss before we get to the end of the book. We haven't discussed Taravangian at all.
Oh. I don't like him.
And this book is so interesting.
Now that we know that what was happening.
Now that he's
being brought into the coalition, and Delonar's like, oh, it'll be so good to have him be part of the group, but he's actually like
good old Taravangian.
Right.
So great.
We get like little we pretty much almost all of Oathbringer, we get happy-go-lucky old kindly man Taravangian. We get Uncle Iroh Taravangian.
Yeah, but he's not kind, because this is where Dalinar learns how utilitarian
he views things so black and white. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he gives this whole speech about
the killing the leader versus...
Well, there's that whole, thing, but it's his whole thing about leadership is a sacrifice to society so that they can live unstained, because we're the ones who have to stain ourselves.
That's right.
And you just see this fatalism to him that he just and you get it. Like, you see from his perspective why he thinks this way.
Oh, well, absolutely. Because, he set out to save the world. That was his original goal. Yeah. He wanted to save people. But over time, he's given away more and more pieces of that to try. I'll just save a little bit. Okay, I'll just save one city. Okay, I'll just save those I know.
Well, and that's what's so interesting about him becoming Odium, because he gives this whole speech about how, because if you go into the diagram, one of the first things you read, it's not the first, but it's one of the first sentences in the diagram is something to the effect of, you have to become king of everything.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
And up until that moment, everything we thought was Roshar, because that is the deal he ends up making with Odium, is that he'll be the king of what's left after Odium's done. Because he'll save Cabronth. But that's it. Like,
so you
everything
think
else
him
is
becoming
burn.
Odium is fulfilling that prophecy in the diagram?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Well, because the whole thing, if you look at it, because the whole time he thought this was all about just saving the world from Odium, this unstoppable thing. And not until literally that moment in that little hut did he think you could stand up to Odium? But he has that moment where suddenly Odium comes in, charging in. And I did a whole post on the subreddit about how cultivation manipulated everything to lead up to this moment. But he suddenly looks and he realizes the blade is there. It wouldn't be there if Seth didn't come to murder him, which is because in this book, one of the things they talk about is it's like, by the way, we found graves. And it's like, oh, what happened? And it's like, yeah, I got killed by a bunch of parchment. It's like, oh, in the end, he was wrong. And he's like, but I was wrong several times. Like, I thought we had to assassinate Dalinar. And it's like, but clearly that didn't pay off. And it's like, it did pay off, because what did sending the assassin on all this stuff do? It made Seth hate him with a passion. What did that do? It manipulated Nightblood, one of the only things that exists that can kill a shard, to be there at the key moment.
Yeah, because Seth wouldn't have died, and he wouldn't have been brought back by Nail. He wouldn't have drawn that much attention by Nail. He wouldn't have been given Nightblood by Nail.
Wouldn't have become a Skybreaker. He wouldn't have gotten in with Dalinar. He wouldn't have all the things.
And I mean,
you just start going down to all the dominoes.
If you're implying or trying to implicate cultivation, nothing's more blaring than the Night Watcher had Nightblood. You know, I mean,
yep.
So her fingers aren't just implied; it's directly right there.
Well, no, so if I had to go find it, but the whole post is just basically all the things that we can see are direct influences of cultivation and what are sort of knock-on effects. Like, one of the big knock-on effects that I had never considered is everything going on with Moash is 100% cultivation's fault.
I want to hear your reasoning, because I agree with you.
So basically she set everything up so that he would end up in the diagram, which is how he ends up being able to try and kill Elhokar, which is what forces Kaladin to swear the oaths, which is what forces Moash to leave. You just start going. It's again all these knock-on effects.
Yeah.
And she's playing this weird long game that we don't know the goal, but clearly part of the goal was to get Taravangian to become Odium, and she was able to do it. She was able to do it by touching 3 people.
Yep, and she was ready for him when he ascended. She was there waiting for him.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
just like, well,
oh man, it's literally, I do not trust cultivation, not even a little bit. I think she is a force for evil on Roshar.
I don't know if I go evil, but you can't trust her if for no other reason. What does Hoyd tell us? Do not trust people
who can see the future.
Yeah, and then, one of the other things is just we don't know what her end goal is. I actually think she's not. I think she's more a neutral force for anything. I think what she's really after is, I think she's realized, because got to remember, she was actually like the mate of Honor,
right? Mm-hmm. Yep.
And she saw, and we get from this book Stormfaller's perspective, where he says at the end all he cared about was O's. Like, he wasn't like that before, and we've seen from all the stuff on Scadrial
where
how the shards
intent overpowers the person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I think what's going on, I think she's realizing this, and like she's starting to be affected by it. I think she's trying to set up a system where people rotate through the intents, so they
don't get too stuck and influenced by it.
Yeah,
maybe.
no, I could see that.
Yeah,
I could see that.
And so I think that's what's going on. And so I think what's going to happen, I don't know if it's the end of book 5. My big prediction is, I think they lose in book 5.
Ugh,
but
I don't like it.
Well, so but my theory is, and this. So I wish I could find it. There was a thread, someone was proposing this, and I'm like, I like this theory. Is basically at the end, basically they lose so that Odium would be free. But basically, Dalinar does something at the very end where he's able to use his bondsmith powers to bind Honor to Odium and forge it into war.
Yeah. Okay. I have a theory to piggyback off of that when you're done.
Yeah. And so, but the reason I say it is because there's a couple of, in particular this book, and just because I feel it's too delicious if Brandon was planning this the entire time, because one thing we know, what happens if they lose the contest of champions? Dalinar has to become his champion, which, Dalinar was destined to become Odium's champion.
Mm-hmm.
And what was Dalinar was the High Prince of War and all this other stuff. And the thing that would be one of the things Dalinar says, it's like, I'll always have Taravangian by my side to do this thing. And so what would be the most appropriate thing if Dalinar thinks he's losing is to spite Odium. What's the one thing it doesn't want?
To join something else. To
join something else. To be untempered.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so if Dalinar is able to do that, does he become his champion? Yes. But what does he become the champion of? The champion of war. And Taravangian would suddenly have not just his fatalistic perspective, but
honor.
Also tempered by honor.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree with all of that.
I think it'd be such a good way to set up the next arc.
So I think that basically going off of exactly all the things you're saying, which maybe not the specifics, but the general gist of it, my theory for the end game of Roshar is that maybe before the end of Book 10, but at least by the end of Book 10, Honor and Odium are united into one shard, which is the Shard of War, right? And I think the whole reason is because up until now, the whole moral dilemma is trying to prove that Odium is just as much of Roshar as Honor and Cultivation are, and the humans are just as much of Roshar as the Parsh are, right? It's this whole dynamic of who owns what, who's invested where, and that's the whole Rhythm of War Navani Raboniel arc is they're all part of,
we're all children of Roshar.
Odium
it's not just you
has
guys
his
now.
own tone on Roshar now. He's fully invested on Roshar. And so I think that in some way, somehow, and I didn't have a theory as to the how, so you just gave me the how.
There we go.
My theory was that some way, somehow, Odium and Honor would be united into one shard, and the magic system of the Knights Radiant would fundamentally have to change to incorporate Odium as well.
Which,
Yeah, and there's actually a pretty strong theory that I like. If going over, oh my goodness, I forgot. It's what's the new book Brandon's coming out with? The Secret Project.
Also the Emberdark.
Emberdark, yeah.
Emberdark, yeah.
Where we get the moment where we see the Shard Bearer show up, and we see that it's always got the suit on. And there's a theory out there that it might be a Parshman that's underneath there. Cause he has a comment about it having sort of a weird accent.
My puppy wanted to say hi.
Oh, hi puppy.
Hi puppy. What's his name?
This is Ahsoka.
Oh, hi Ahsoka. Sorry, video people or audio people only. There's a cute dog.
Yeah, this is why you should go watch on YouTube and help us with our viewing hours.
Yes.
But yeah, sudden pets can happen at any moment.
So the theory is that it's a Parsh under there.
Yeah, and so, which would be if we're doing what we're talking about, it would make sense that Parshmen are just Radiants now.
Yeah, and I mean we have Relaine. We have suspicions that something's up with.
Well, and obviously Venli.
And Venli,
at first, but yeah.
So I do love. It's a small
is that a
thing.
Skybreaker or a Windrunner?
What is
in Emberdark?
I don't think we know, but I think it's a Skybreaker because I don't think it was blue.
I thought it was.
I don't remember.
I had thought it was a Windrunner for so long, ever since that chapter was previewed forever ago. But then
his tone just sounds so much more Skybreaker.
Somebody pointed that out to me, that he's talking like a Skybreaker, and then they also pointed out the hoses. And they were like, if it was a Windrunner, they probably wouldn't need the hoses. Like the
why wouldn't they need it?
Tubes, because Windrunners can create their own atmosphere.
Yeah, but they can't create oxygen.
Right. I guess it depends on how far they're traveling.
Yeah. But the other thing that's just it's interesting though. The other thing I love is just the concept of it's like, I don't like Venli as a character. I frankly find her
Adventurer
chapters
Prime
usually
Fire
pretty.
said, I said that here. I'm not sure what what they're referring to, but maybe that was the theory.
Yeah, but I don't like Venli for the most part. I've never been that interested in her chapters, but I kind of like I like her musings. And there's this one moment, like at the start of the fields, where she's like noticing, like she's like, oh, why did the Spren help them? And then she's like looks at the emotion on their faces and stuff. And she's like, maybe that's why, because they just wear their emotions so much more on their
faces,
like their entire personalities, that it attracts the Spren to them. And it's a very interesting.
It's a very Parshendi way of looking at things.
Yeah. Well, especially like, because we do get the Relaine perspective, which is a very interesting perspective, because when we get it, he's very frustrated because he is like as alone as any character has ever felt. He might be the most alone character at that point.
Yeah.
Where he literally thinks he's the last of his kind.
Mm-hmm.
And
he doesn't fit in either group, not even the Spren want him.
Yeah. And then like when everyone else is trying to fly, he's like, no one asked him if he no one even thought to ask him. Like, and it's just this whole thing. But at the same time, he's mad at himself because he knows these are his friends. They do care for him. They just don't get it. And he finally has that moment where Kaladin says, I know how you feel. And it's like, do you really, or is that just something
you're saying
men say? And then Kaladin pauses and he's like, I guess it's just a thing men say.
Yeah.
And
try and explain it to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, I'll try. Cause he's amongst these alien people that are all forms at all times. Mm-hmm. And it makes no sense to them. And they have they don't have any rhythms.
Cause they ain't got
and so,
yeah.
But it's just, so it's very interesting to get their perspectives, because
really
we don't get a lot of alien perspectives from Brandon, because it is hard to write for them. But when we occasionally get like
Emberdark, when we're getting dragon POV, that's going to be interesting.
Get dragon POV. We got a couple of Milan chapters in Era 2.
My gosh,
it's fun.
Milan.
Do we get any Tensoon chapters or?
Yeah,
I think
Era 1. Yeah, there's like he has a whole arc in Era 1.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he has a whole arc. Unfortunately for the Tensoon chapters, literally the entire world is ending, so we don't get a lot.
He's also in a cage for most of it.
Yeah,
cage as a pile of goo.
And so he does. So we don't get a lot of the more alien side of his thinking, because it's just crisis after crisis. So we don't get to explore it as much. Milan, we got to explore it more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, heck, technically with Milan, we got a Mist Wraith perspective, because we get her perspective when they remove the spikes from her.
Yeah.
That was one last thing I wanted to mention. Listening to how Venli talks about letting the Spren in and how it changes them, if you listen to that, it almost sounds like hemalurgy. The way she talks about how it changes you, and it's something's getting stapled to your spirit web when you're doing that.
I think that's probably intentional, because I think as the Cosmere gets more and more developed, we're seeing more and more. I don't even know how English hard
principles.
Yeah, we're seeing more and more ways where you can accomplish similar effects through various, very different means. Right? It's because I think it all comes down to. It all came from Adonalsium. It was all one magic system at some point. So even though it split into 16, it all had the same source, so you can still accomplish the same things through different means.
And the shards would have been on Yolan and seen how magic was done, and would have a way of that, and it maybe tweaked slightly on their planet versus other things and how it gets done.
Right.
But they would have. That was the source. The source
as
code
the
is the
Cosmere
same.
Develops. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and one of the best examples is in this book, because we meet the Midnight Mother, which at first we just thought she had these weird inky Spren.
And then we read Tress.
Oh no, it's more.
Well, to the point that it's so much. It was it's a one-off thing from Hessi's Mythica, she talks about Ray Shafir and her inky spren, and it's like, you know, we can't figure out what type of spren they are. They don't quite fit. And having read Tress, you're like, they don't fit because they're not spren. It's Midnight Essence.
Yeah, something else.
Yeah. I think there might be a couple wobs on it, and I think it's all been rafoed. So correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I think it has been.
I think it's all been rafoed, but people have tried to figure out whether or not Ray Shafir's Midnight Essence is that actually Aether Midnight Essence, or is it just accomplishing the same thing through different magical means?
I feel like there was a wob that isn't just a Raffo, but I don't think it got super specific, and I don't remember what exactly it said, but I feel like it was saying like, yes, they are related, they are similar. I don't remember if it said what it said beyond that, but I remember there was some confirmation that way at least.
No, this is, I feel like Oathbringer was sort of the book when Brandon sort of kicked things into overdrive in terms of the Cosmere. And so now, having been on the other side of that kick into overdrive, this book is as good as it was the first time. Yeah, well, that's kicking into the stratosphere in terms of connection. But I just mean sort of like where, like, I think like both the quality of the writing, the plot, and the myth have all sort of come together. And I think it's just sort of like stages of a rocket. Like, they kicked another stage in with Oathbringer, and now that we're on the other side of that, this book is even more fun.
Yeah, because you can pick up on
and
little stuff that he had dropped in hints about, but we didn't pick them up until now, and we're like, oh.
I think I might have found the wob you were looking for, Amy. If you want to.
Oh, sure.
These are not the wob you're looking for.
If you want.
So somebody said kind of a similar question about Midnight Essence. Now we've seen Crump Up and Tress, blah 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 blah. We've also seen the nightmares in Yumi that appears. That's true. I actually didn't think about that.
Yeah,
the nightmares are very strikingly similar to that. But Brandon said, so there's a couple things interwoven here. The actual idea of Midnight Essence is a concept like light weaving that predates the shattering of Adonalsium. Various magic systems are essentially borrowing a lot of the Cosmere and creating a parallel effect from the same basis. So, and then he said Yumi is a little distinct from that, and he goes into more specifics. But
so they're same source code, kind of is.
Yeah. Well, and another one with Yumi that's interesting is what happened to Yumi. They have this awakened object that is consuming everyone's essence and emitting this weird black smoke. What does that sound like? A little sword.
Yep.
Although I still want to imagine the machine on Yumi as the helper robot in Iron Man, because that just,
which is interesting,
makes me giggle.
That's funny. I like that, because
I think of it as like Howl's Moving Castle.
I just love the idea as she's like stacking everything in this artsy way, and it's like like knocking stuff over.
The father machine was not awakened through breath, right? It was awakened.
No,
we just know it's awakened.
It's raffoed on like how it works.
Oh, it's been raffoed.
From what I remember,
I thought
people have asked, and it's
yeah.
We just know it's awakened.
So the fact that it's doing the black smoke thingy when it might not even be breaths is interesting.
Because I feel like we've heard awakened, and it's not just been breaths. Like there was something else.
I think Brandon said that in the future of the Cosmere, it's going to become a generic term for basically AI.
Well, I mean, heck, we see in we see the fact that breath units are now the standard unit
BEUs or whatever.
Breath equivalent unit. I think it
BEUs,
was. I think it's BEU.
Yep. Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, before I forget, there was somebody, Daniel in chat was like, Raboniel asked for death from Navani and got it, and it's like, okay, so one person, we know one person who asked for death.
I was so sad. I was so sad. I love Raboniel. I wanted so much more of her.
I can understand why she was like, I am done. She's like,
oh, totally. I get it.
Oh, yeah.
I just disagree.
But it's just rough.
All right. Yeah. So, emails, everyone. You can email us at any time at cosmerestudies@gmail.com. We are going to have an interesting episode next week. So I'm really hoping people will send emails because I think it's going to be interesting. We'll bring it up at the end here. Also, if you ever want to send us something physical, you can send it to our P.O. Box at the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, P.O. Box 970063, Orem, Utah 84097. Obviously, everyone here has their own personal projects. Seth, why don't you give us a lowdown on where people can find you and what you're up to?
Yeah, I'm the Cosmere Academy on all platforms. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, I mostly focus on TikTok, but I am trying to branch out and put more attention into Instagram and YouTube as well. YouTube, I will probably be putting more long form type, like deep dives into things, just because TikTok really isn't the platform for that type of video. Also, I kind of want to get away from the whole meminess of TikTok. You know, I want to do more intellectual stuff, which is why I named my account the Cosmere Academy, not the Cosmere Memes. So
Yeah.
The Cosmere Playhouse.
The Cosmere Playhouse, yeah, exactly. But no, yeah, so look for me there. Right now, just mostly TikTok, but keep an eye out for more and more stuff coming out on YouTube as well.
All right, perfect. Amy.
My Facebook is Coincidence Cosplay and Props. My Twitter is @CoincidenceCosp because my name is too long, and I swear I do not post on there hardly at all. My Instagram is @coincidence_cosplay. My TikTok is @coincidencecosplay, and my website is www.coincidencecosplay.com. So I'm still just doing a lot of playing catch up with actually posting, and I'm still really inconsistent at posting. But if you want to see Jawas or Twi'leks, then go to my TikTok because that's where I do the randomness there. But I'm also hoping to do more than just them.
It's seriously
too,
some
but
amazing cosplay.
Oh, thank you. It's
So
so
if anybody,
fun.
if anybody watching or listening doesn't go look at that, then shame on you because it's some incredible
I got
quality
to chase
cosplay.
a little mouse droid and with fairy wings and like a little pink bow on my head at an event. That's my most recent one, and it's really funny. Like I'm chasing it and then it stops and I'm like, oh crap, and then I chase. It's
That is
just
so
hilarious
funny.
because I'm leaning over and doing like the little like spider fingers, like trying to chase it around. Anyway, so I do lots of silly stuff with my Twi'lek, is really sassy, and I just lip sync the snarky mimi stuff like that, and then but I also do other things too, but that's what I've had the energy to do recently is those things because they're easy, because I don't have to do makeup, or I do very normal makeup for my Twi'lek. But yeah, so that's my stuff. Ta-da! So you, Jordan.
Perfect. You can find me at twitch.tv/splicestream, YouTube, Splicestream everywhere, basically. I also have my new project that I'm working on with Bill, which is I think we overleveled. It's not quite a podcast yet. It'll eventually get there. We're still sort of figuring things out. It's just a bunch of middle-aged people just talking about gaming and what we liked in the past. Our most recent episode we did was all just about simulation games. It was a ton of fun. We also did an episode recently that I know Bill was really proud of, where we were talking about old school adventure games.
Oh, that does sound right up his alley.
Yeah, it was apparently up a lot of their alleys because I have sort of a rotating group. We don't have like a set group of people, but everyone wanted to talk about that one apparently.
There you go.
Which is funny because that's like the one thing I've never really done. And so I sort of just got to wind them up and say, go.
That's fun.
But yeah. All right. For those of you who want to support the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, but can't, but just become patrons, if you could just let your friends know about the show and give us 5-star reviews wherever you listen to the podcast, or if you're on YouTube, leave a comment, give it an upvote. It helps us out a bunch. Also, our merch store that we always talk about looks like it might be closing. So I don't know if it's closed already, but there apparently are the people who run the merch store. They're changing providers, and so I don't know if this. I still haven't quite looked into it. So if it hasn't closed and you've been wanting to get one, don't put it off. It's Safari's closed. Sorry.
We'll
That's all I got.
Yeah. We'll figure something out.
Exactly. All right. Final thoughts.
That book has a lot.
It does.
A lot.
It does. There's one last thing I just want to say. Seth has one-off comment that made me go, what is up with that?
Oh, wow.
he said at some point, it was him talking about, I think it was like one of his first things when we get his perspective. He says something to the effect of, it's like, it reminded him of a voice he had heard in his head once.
Is that the bullet
when he
point
was
you
much
have
younger.
there where it's like, wait, another voice?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that. Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't like, it is such a quick one-off comment that I never noticed before. It makes me wonder if he was trying to bond a sprint a long time ago.
That's what I was going to say. It's like, if that's the case, I wonder if there was something that was trying to bond.
Interesting.
Which I wonder if that set off his truthless stuff, is if he's like, he's thinking that he's turning into a radiant and they freak out.
Oh, I like it.
And he's the flashback person in this next book, so I don't think we have to wait very long.
That's going to be. Naturo found music upon the wind, and so he danced with it. What a great opening words to a chapter.
Yes.
Yep. All right. So in addition to our live episodes of the show, the stream on youtube.com/cosmerestudies every other Monday at 7:30 Pacific time, 10:30 Eastern, listeners can find our videos on YouTube or audio versions of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and just about any other service that carries podcasts by searching Cosmere Studies. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook under the profile at Cosmere Studies. For our next episode, and this is where I want you guys to be sending emails, we're going to be tackling a big thing that was talked about in this book, the Oath Pact, because it's going to be a big deal going forward. So if you have any theories, please send them via email so that you can take part in the discussion. So make sure to join us when we next stream live on Monday, July 1st, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/cosmerestudies. Until then, on behalf of Amy, Seth, and myself, thanks for listening. And remember, there's always another secret.